Okay, I'm going to call the Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020 School Building Committee meeting to order. First item, welcome everyone. First item on the agenda is the minutes of June 9th, 2020. And I just, for members, yeah, you just unmute yourself when you want to talk or make a motion or make any comments, and then just, if you could mute yourself when you're done so there isn't a lot of background noise, that would be appreciated.
I make a motion to approve the June 9th minutes.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Again, if you have any comments, just unmute yourself and start talking. Seeing none, I think I've wrote everyone down here. I'm just going to go through the list. If I missed anyone, roll call. Oh, there's Matt. Shut up. Just going to go down my list here. So we're voting on the minutes of June 23rd, 2020. In favor?
June 9th.
Sorry, yeah, June 9th. Today's the 23rd. Donna Shea. There you go. I think you're unmuted now.
Yes.
Thank you. Frank Burke. Superintendent Whipple.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Matt Meehan.
Yes.
Mel Carson.
Yes.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
Sean. Go for it.
I abstain.
I see. John McLeod.
Yes.
Did I miss anyone? And the chair votes yes. So the minutes for June 9th, 2020 are approved. And they'll be certified and given for the package for the 90%. Next item on the agenda is I'm going to start with the schedule update with Hill. And if I could just, again, have the team introduce themselves as they usually do, that would be great. Thank you.
I'll start since I'm unmuted. I'm James Liebman with HMFH Architects.
And Pat LaRue from HMFH.
Simon Tempest with Hill International.
Inger Humble-Foley, Hill International.
Brendan O'Malley with Bond Building Construction.
Thanks. You want to get, are you going to start? Or?
Yeah, I'll just go through the schedule ahead of everybody else. But as we are probably aware, our next major milestone is at the end of this month on the 29th, when we'll be submitting the 90% documents to the MSBA. And just so that everybody's clear, this is the last formal submission that we make to the MSBA. We'll be working with them all the way through the project, obviously, but this is the last major submission that we'll be making to the MSBA. And then in August, we'll be, HMFH will continue working on the drawings and we'll have the 100% set. And that is when we'll be going out to the market to get all of our bid packages. We're well on the way to getting to the finish of the drawings and so forth, and going out to bid, and then we'll create our final GMP, which is the guaranteed maximum price for the project. Next slide, please. So this is the just the overall dashboard that we give to you every month, which shows all of the items that we've been working on. We just put in the 90% set in to the bid estimate, to the estimators, two estimators. We had look at the pricing for it, and we came in on budget or slightly under budget. So the good news is that we don't have to do any value engineering. We don't have to cut anything to the project at this point. So that was very good news as a result of the submission. Moving forward, we're going gangbusters on the site, and we hope next week or the end of this week to start actually doing demolition on the site. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about with you is probably having a small groundbreaking, which we'll organize with the committee. The details of that will be released as soon as we know where we're at with the demolition. So that's an exciting thing coming up at some point next week. I don't know.
And Simon, on that, I had a little chance before the meeting started when Jen hopped on to just talk about next week potentially, and we were looking at the morning of Thursday before our OAC meeting, and perhaps we could have the OAC meeting spread out in person at Town Hall after that.
Okay, we'll try and target that. And I think by then we'll definitely have something to look at, and it'll be, you'll see the VOTEC week coming down. So that's we'll aim for that, to do it on the Thursday before.
It will be, officials in person. The building committee, the school committee will probably invite our legislators and obviously the team, but then have it, taped for the public. So the public won't be invited on site, just given everything that's going on. But we will have it taped for them to watch on BTC and the website.
One of the things that I'll do then, if I know that date, is I'll talk to the MSBA tomorrow, because I think they usually like to attend these. They're a major financial partner. So we'll see if, I don't know if it's Jack McCarthy or somebody from the MSBA can come down and wave the flag for the MSBA. But,
Perfect. Thank you.
Ted, did you come up with a time yet, or is that yet unknown?
I think we have our OAC meeting scheduled for that morning. I think would we do those at 10 or 11?
yeah, we do it at 10, but we could do, the site starts at 7:30, so.
Right. In or around before that OAC meeting is what we're thinking of, Sean.
All right, so when you come down to a concrete time, you let us know.
Yep, but it'll be before 10, hopefully.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
And just the other thing on this sheet, we're tracking on the budget, as you can see with the cash flow, we're right on target. No major upsets in terms of the budget, right? One of the things that we're going to be dealing with, though, is the impact of COVID-19. Nobody knows what that overall impact is on the project. So that being said, my piece, we'll move on to I think Bonnie's going to come now. Brendan's going to give us an update on the progress. See photographs coming. Yeah.
Ted, I have a question on the budget.
Sorry, do you want to field your question?
Yeah, who has a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, Ted, this is Dan Daly, 28 Fisk Avenue. Two questions. The OAC meeting, is that a public meeting?
The public's not there, no. We don't keep minutes. It's an internal between the owner, architect, and construction manager on a weekly basis.
So that's not an open meeting for the public?
Correct.
Okay.
We do have, what Simon was showing earlier is the ongoing update that we give based on those meetings, that we go over all those updates at those meetings and then make those updates public.
And the other question on the 33 million that's been spent so far, is that detailed somewhere? Is there some public can see that?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
Sure. The
On my
on the budget, the 33 million that's been spent so far, is that information available for the public to see where it's been spent?
It can be. I'm trying to think if it's in a document. I think it's broken down on that, on one of those documents, but I can send that to you and tell you where it's posted.
Okay, thank you.
I don't quite think it was 33 million yet, but
I thought I saw 33. Slides are not there. I can't go back to it.
yep. Okay.
Jumping into the construction progress, I just want to give a 30-day look ahead. Truthfully, as you know, we gave an update about 2 weeks ago, so it's not substantially different. But as you can see on the kind of first item, the selective demolition is underway. There's a photo I took last week of the Vogue wing, so you can see a lot of the interior partitions are down, and some of the windows have been removed. We've moved into phase 2 of abatement, which is in kind of the administrative area in the principal's office in that area, and over by the auditorium. That's in being contained and starting abatement in that space. Topsoil disposal has begun. We began hauling some of that material Monday. We're going to resume again tomorrow, bring that off site. Structural demolition, as Simon mentioned, we're hoping to start that later this week. I actually dropped off the permit application earlier today. We were just waiting on the sign off from National Grid Gas, which I got this morning. So I've been in touch with Richard Ziegler about processing that. Shortly after the structural takedown begins, the demolition debris hauling will begin shortly after. So that would most likely not start until early next week. And we're also getting very close to being in a position to award the full site work scope, the concrete scope, the structural steel scope, and the elevator, which we hope to do over the next couple of weeks. Next slide, please. And here's a photo. Sorry, here's an updated logistics plan. So we've since brought in both the bond trailer and the hill trailer, shown kind of there on the northern section of the site. We've brought in some additional wash stations for COVID-related measures. But it's not substantially different from what we had been showing before. I think it was more or less just those added COVID measures and a slight shift on where the trailers went. Just to kind of give you a visual for where the structural demo will begin. The Vogue wing, which is kind of the T-shaped portion of the building on the north of the site. That is the area that will be starting the structural demolition imminently. We're going to start over kind of by the Waycare office and work our way north. And we actually have 3 pieces of equipment on site right now. So we'll be starting from that area, and then we're also going to hit it from either side in kind of the midpoint of the vertical portion of the T, I suppose, on either end as well. So they'll be working on that takedown. Takedown should go fairly quick, and then the removing of the material will be ongoing for the next several weeks as the abatement in the rest of the building continues, and we'll move on with the structural demolition of that once those areas are clear. And that was it for kind of my schedule update. Did anybody have any specific questions while we've got the slide up?
Brendan, I do. Ted?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Brendan, when we get into the more bunker-esque parts of the building with all the heavy rebar and concrete. How do you anticipate demoing? Are you going to have a, one of those pile drive thing, or are you going to have a ball, or how are you going to knock that down?
Yeah, it's pretty much all just going to be by large excavators. They're essentially just kind of picking it apart and tearing it away. And although the building is substantial, that is a pretty effective way of taking a building down efficiently, and it's very controlled too. It's not some other methods would produce more dust and whatnot. This is a nice efficient way of taking it down and limiting any disturbances.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Just unmute yourself if you do. Very nice.
Okay. So here we are at the end of construction documents. As Simon said, this is our last submission to the MSBA, and tonight you'll be voting on submitting the 90% set to the MSBA. Last submission to the MSBA is very exciting for us. Since the 60% CD submission, since we were here for the approval of the 60% submission, we've had 4 working groups, 2 school committee meetings, the weekly owner architect contractor OAC meetings that we were talking about earlier. We've gotten comments back from DESE on a resubmission. They had a few comments and we responded, and they have since approved. So we've completed the approval of the DESE package. We have issued the early bid package that Brendan mentioned related to site, steel, concrete, and elevators, and await the final bids back. We have completed responding to the commissioning agent's 90% design review comments, and Hill and Bond are about to submit their comments. We've completed the structural peer review with very few comments from the other structural engineer, the third-party structural engineer. There's been a testing agency hired for construction testing. There's been a lot of additional soils testing, and soil started to move off-site to various disposal facilities. And what we'll be submitting to the MSBA next week consists of 675 sheets of drawings. So those are the, very large documents by a lot of trades, right? There's architectural, there's landscape, MEP, fire protection. There's a lot of players and a lot of work done by a lot of firms, as well as over 3,000 page specification document. We were here a few weeks ago to review colors and materials, and we've progressed the design over the last couple months to really dive into materials and textures and how panels lay out, and getting much more into the detail, both at a material and color level as well as a constructability level. The 90% documents, as these images represent, really represent a complete building or thereabout, with all of the structure and all of the roof pitches and all of the detail that goes into designing and building a building. And so you can kind of see that these have really progressed in terms of the level of detail that is in them. The Project scope highlights. This is something we presented at the 60% vote, and what you'll see here is that it hasn't changed. So it still includes 3 heating boilers, which provides sufficient redundancy for the coldest weather, so that you can maintain temperature year round. The selected theater equipment and the selected fitness and play equipment, which including the outdoor play areas. What's interesting, worth noting about those two, the theater lighting and the play equipment itself is not part of the actual construction project. They'll be bought either on state contract or as FF&E equipment, and under a separate contract, not through bond. It also includes manual partitions in the 6th grade classrooms between the more general ed, English, social studies classroom and the STEM classroom, the science and math classroom. There's an operable partition between each team of those. The sunscreens at the classroom and neighborhood collaborative areas, as well as the main entry, are still in the project, and so there's a good level of sun control and glare control. We still have the higher performance glass at the classrooms, where most of the occupancy occurs. The 250 kVA emergency generator is part of the project, as well as the 60 mil 20-year warranty roofing membrane. You will see alternates in a minute, and the roof is one of them. Also, the Teachers Memorial Garden will have what's in the project related to the Teachers Memorial Garden is a small plaza with engraved bricks with the names of those memorialized, and it can be added to, as well as the obelisk, as we've presented, will be inside sort of the lower cafeteria where it opens up onto that garden. We've also, as we've presented, managed to maintain the wood, metal, and resin materials on the 3 curved volumes within the town square, as well as the cloud ceiling that we've presented in the last few SBC meetings. And we haven't talked about this in a while, but the extended van loop canopy that comes all the way out to where a van can park next to it and just under it is part of the base project. And lastly, there are 6 electrical vehicle charging ports that are also part of the project. For bidding alternates, we've pared it down as decisions have been made. As I mentioned, the 90 mil 30-year warranty is important ad alternate that'll get bid, and if we get good bids and low bids, there may be money for that, as well as the higher performing glass at the curtain wall areas, which are primarily the cafeteria, the town square, as well as the neighborhood collaborative areas at the ends of each academic wing. And then there is an alternate to increase the planting program around the school, just to fill in where some of the earlier VEs have cut back a little bit on the planting.
We stop there for some questions.
Yeah.
And Dan, go ahead, Dan.
Thanks, Ted. Back to the soil testing.
Yep.
There's some stacks of soils. Are those all those soils, are they contaminated?
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
These soils, the piles of soil that are around the building, those are all contaminated? Is that correct?
They are mostly not contaminated. There was some naturally occurring arsenic found, and then there's a bit of asbestos as it's flaked off the building.
So that will be DEP
It's
will.
all being discarded. The DEP's, all the filing for DEP is either done or underway, and that really has to do with where it gets shipped to, what facility can accept it.
Okay, thank you. And the other question, you mentioned that there was some additional testing. Do you know who's doing the testing?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
The name of the company that's doing the additional testing?
Is McPhail Associates.
So, okay, thank you.
I've got one question.
Yep, go ahead.
And we had also spoken about, I don't have it right in front of me, the bathroom walls, you know, being as high as possible with tile and not like 2 or 3 feet, but if we have room to do that, you know, make them 6 feet or above the sinks or whatever, you know, I know we had spoken about that at some point in all the bathrooms.
We can add that to the alternate list. Before the bid documents go out, there is a decision to be made about the order of the alternates, especially as they pertain to the filed sub-bids, because you have to take them in order.
Can I just, let me speak to that if I could. I think, Kathy, what you're referring to was discussion we had at the 60% round of VE, where we had considered reducing the tile height in areas, including the bathroom. So we haven't taken any of that. So it's remained in the project as we've always designed it. And what is in the project is full height ceramic tile on the walls behind fixtures, so sinks and toilets, and then partial height tile everywhere else. And that partial height tile goes up to 5'8". So it's very well covered.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that, Matt, for that clarification.
Welcome.
Any other members have questions?
Hi, this is Lisa. Is there a change to the insurance requirement? Are we doing our own insurance or asking Bond to carry it? Because we had originally voted to hold our own, but is that changing at all?
John can answer where we're at with that. It hasn't changed.
As we stand right now, I've been working with Dave Capaldo, and he is re-quoting what it would be for Bond to carry that. And we have a firm quote in from our insurance carrier right now, and we believe that the Bond's carrier with the scope of the project would be less. We haven't come to a final conclusion yet.
Yeah, our number came in higher than we expected, so we're still reviewing it, but we haven't got the bond.
Just to clarify, so it looks like the amount would be actually less than what we anticipated if we carried our own, if we go with bonds?
Less than the actual quote, not what we anticipated. We anticipated less, but it came in higher. So now we're asking Bond to quote it to see if that's less than what we got for a quote.
Right. So I guess what's the net to the project? Is it going to be an increased cost to the project, and would it require another committee vote where we're changing the spec?
We don't know yet because we don't have the number from Bond. So that's what we're waiting for to determine what step would be needed at that point.
And if we do change, would we be revoting it?
If it impacted the bottom line budget number, or we needed to do something to get to the number, the next step after this is bidding. So maybe John can jump back in about where we would, change those numbers. But
with everything we looked at and what Dave Capaldo and I talked about, if nothing changes in Bond's number due to something that's happened through COVID or whatever's happened over the last couple of months, the bond number would be not changing our bottom line number, I believe.
But I guess my question is, the committee actually had to vote what way we wanted to go in terms of insurance. So I'm just thinking that if we do change for bond to hold our insurance, then it should be a committee vote.
Okay. Comments or questions? Ready?
Ted, I do have a question. Dan Daly, just Kevin.
Yep.
John, what's the expected impact from COVID on insurance?
The issue is we don't know. We don't know if there is one or not, and that's what we're researching right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand that impact of COVID to the construction project. I'm not sure it's relevant.
Any other comments or questions from the committee or none? Did anyone before is the next thing the vote? We're gonna go over
The budget. Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
So Simon kind of stole my drama, but the good news is that the estimates came in after reconciliation, came in under budget. The estimate of record is bonds, which is $15,000 less than the construction budget, the MSBA agreement, and the other estimate was less than that by less than 1%. So they reconciled pretty well. So there was no VE to the project, which we're pretty excited about. And if there's any questions on that or on those numbers before the vote, and then when you're ready to vote, I'll go to the vote language.
Thanks. So at this point, I'll open it up to anyone that's in the meeting to ask a question or make a comment before we vote on the 90%. Just unmute yourself and ask away. All right, hearing none. You just move it to the motion again. Sorry, thanks.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Sean.
I vote that the Weymouth School Building Committee endorse the submittal of the Maria Weston Chapman Middle School 90% construction document submission to the MSBA pursuant to the SBA's approval of the said submission on June 29th, 2020.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Kathy. Any discussion on the motion? We'll do another roll call. And again, when I call your name, if you could just unmute yourself and vote on the motion. Donna Shea?
Yes.
Thank you. Frank Burke?
Yes.
Superintendent Whipple? Are you there?
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you say my name. Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, I have a problem with my name. Thank you.
Last time.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what it is. Sorry.
That's all right. John McLeod?
Yes.
Kathy Curran?
Yes.
Lisa Belmarsh? Matt Meehan?
Yes.
Mel Curtin?
Yes.
Brian Smith?
Yes.
Sean Guilfoyle?
Yes.
Did I miss anyone? And the chair votes yes, so that motion is passed unanimously. Any other, actually, Sean, could I get a motion on the minutes to approve and certify to submit with 10 minutes to submit with the 90% submission?
Certainly. I make a motion to approve the minutes of June oh, you mean this meeting?
Yeah, that out. So when Janet sends them, I'll review them, approve them, certify them so they can be submitted with the 90%, like as we did with the 60%.
All right, so tonight's minutes. So make a motion to approve the minutes of 6/23/2020.
To submit with the 90%, yep.
With the 90%.
I second.
Thank you. Gonna do a roll call for this too, as required by law. Donna Shea,
Yes.
Frank Burke,
Yes.
Superintendent Whipple,
Yes.
John McLeod,
Yes.
Kathy Curran,
Yes.
Lisa Belmarsh,
Yes.
Matt Meehan, Mel Curtin, Smith,
Yes.
Sean Guilfoyle.
Yes.
Did I miss anyone? And the chair votes yes. Luckily, they should be pretty short minutes. So, the team. When is the for the team? When would you need those certified minutes by to?
If I could get them Friday morning, I could slide them in.
Okay. And you need last meeting and this meeting, right?
Correct.
Okay. Very good. Anyone have anything else before we adjourn?
Ted, I have a question.
Yep. All right, Kathy.
For you to maybe John McLeod, the modular classrooms that are going in place.
Yep.
They're under the school department, or is it under the Chapman building? My question is, are these classrooms secured, locked and secured, or gated off somehow? If they're
Currently, there are locks on all the doors. They were having an issue over the last few days with the locking mechanisms themselves. Contractor was made aware of it, is remedying it. If it's not complete, it will be today or tomorrow.
because who is responsible for those buildings right now?
The contractors that are installing them, until they turn them over to us after substantial completion.
Okay, thanks, John.
Any other questions or comments from?
Ted, I do have a question.
Yep. Go ahead.
So as you guys are probably aware, we've had some issues with rodents in, across Fisk Avenue down into commercial. And I know Bond sent out a subcontractor to look at it, but I just haven't heard anything back. And I'd like to get a sense of what's going on with that.
Brendan, do you want to go ahead?
Yep. So yeah. So we do have traps spaced every 30 feet on along the fence line, and we've been doing weekly inspections, and we're seeing some mouse activity. We did see a little bit of rabbit activity this last Friday, but we're not seeing a substantial amount of activity on the site. So we're we do have Bono Pest Control, and they're doing the inspections, but I'm not seeing we're not seeing a lot of activity on site, honestly. So I don't know, Simon. I'm not sure what you want to do as far as for the abutters. We did inspect several of the properties, and there was some minor recommendations made at that time, but we're continuing to monitor it on site, and we've added traps and bait traps within the building as well, underneath the tunnels. But yeah, we've got short of I'm not sure we can add any more traps on the
I will say too, one of the other things that's come to our attention that we're looking into is there is another construction site nearby that we've inquired. John has inquired in his discussion with the building department to see if that construction site has any pest control to it, just to rule that, to deal with that too, to see if there could be rodents coming from that site as well. But
just to clarify, that site, it was woods before. That was a forest and woods, and I'm not sure why we're going down that path. But I'll leave you guys to do your work.
Yeah.
Substantial. Can you just define substantial?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
You said that there were not substantial rodents caught in some. Could you just be a little more specific on what the word substantial means? Because what substantial might be different than.
I'll pull up the last inspection report I'm saying.
Yeah, those public, those of them, can those be shared with us?
Says here, inspect and service all exterior bait traps, replace bait as needed. Mice activity found in stations 1, 2, 10, 11, 65, 66, 72, 75, 107, 108, and 109. Rat activity found in stations 14, 16, 107, and 109. So that is of the, the 2 months or whatever it's been that we've had these traps in place. That is the first time we're seeing rat activity, just this past Friday.
Okay.
Total traps, Brendan?
They're every 30 feet on the property line, so I can get your count, but I'm guessing we're in the 150 range. Let me see.
And that was saying we found rats.
We saw rat activity.
Is it possible to get a description of where those numbered traps are located? So it sounds like you've got pretty good detail on where. I'd like to know how many rats, how often. I know I've found 2 on my property, and I'd like that entered into the minutes. And I'm very concerned about the rodents because we barely knocked down any walls yet. So if they're already coming, there's probably going to be more. Technology and realizes that there's likely to be rodents.
Yeah, we can get you that.
Okay, thank you. And my other comment, this is very important to me, and it's near and dear to the neighborhood. The truck traffic. John McLeod is pretty aware of the traffic. I know there's signage, but the trucks are just not paying attention, and I believe that's the town's responsibility to make sure that they address that. I would like to see police detail on Fifth Avenue, and I'd like the committee to consider that.
So for the truck traffic, you're right. There have been some incidents where trucks were incorrectly not following the proper routes. So just so you know, we have provided signage on all the streets behind the site saying "Do not enter construction, traffic, use commercial street." We've actually ordered some additional signage. I think we put up another one today. We've also provided GPS instructions of what the drivers should be plugging into their GPSs. We've figured out the proper address to put so they don't cut through Chard or down Anthony, and that's been distributed to all subcontractors and vendors. We continue to reiterate that to make sure the message gets to every single truck driver every week or so. And yeah, there were a couple drivers that weren't paying attention, and yeah, they were in the wrong, and we're dealing with it. We told that company that they are not welcome back on site if they're not following our directions.
We appreciate that. As you know, if they go down Anthony Road, if they miss the signs both on Commercial and at the top of Fisk and Anthony, the only exit for them is to go reverse down Anthony Road. And I just have some big concerns from the safety perspective, and just want to pass that to the committee. I think it's really important. for these trucks to obey the rules that bond is laying down for them. It seems to be a challenge if they're not following it. So thanks for sharing my comments.
Thanks, and we agree that is a serious issue. I just got that report back myself from Brendan today after getting your email this morning, and I'll still relay those, how we're addressing it initially. That will hopefully solve that problem, and I'll put that in writing to you so you know what we're doing, and hopefully that solves it. We have seen similar things happen on other projects in town, and oftentimes, these measures do help alleviate that. And like Brendan said, if it continues, some of these folks on site, they're not going to be, welcomed back. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And if it does continue, again, I'm going to recommend and push hard for a police detail. I think that's, if you can't get them to obey the signs, I think we need to take stronger measures. So the last question I had is just around the dust issues. It's not clear to me if the dust monitors on Fifth Avenue are operational yet. You could clarify that for me.
Yes, they are. So at the moment, they're running off of battery power, and the battery lasts about 15 to 16 hours. We're in the process of getting that hardwired, so it's going to monitor 24/7. Yes, they are operational, and at the moment, just on battery power. There's a period where obviously no site activity is happening, that they are down, but we're starting it up at 7 o'clock every day.
Okay. And what's I'd like to make sure that I get a copy of the baseline report that happened pre-construction. I think that's pretty important relative to the litigation.
Okay, yeah, I'll share that with Stan.
That it? Yep, he's done.
This is Lisa. I had a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify, so when concerns come in like that, is it town or is it Bond or Hill, or who is answering or addressing those complaints of on-site things?
It's a combination with Mr. Daly. It's a little different because of the lawsuit and the settlement that we have with him. So John McLeod tends to address those. Mr. Daly brings up directly, but it's more often that John and the town side that is addressing these directly. But obviously the team with Bond is involved, and Hill are involved in some of the responses.
Is there a plan for any sort of like regular reach outs to the abutters or people in the neighborhood? Do we have any type of meetings or any kind of reach out plan for those people?
To do what?
Just to notify them of things or ask people how it's going, or we just wait for them to contact us.
When we do send out notices, we do have, John can elaborate on how extensive, but an email list, and we obviously do the 2-week look ahead that we post for everyone to see what's coming up. And then John has made his contact info available to all of them. From the time we met with all of them individually, they are free to reach out to John directly.
Okay. And on site, could I ask, is it just Bond and Hill that are going to be on site, or is the town and schools also going to have people on site during construction?
We have a project manager through asset management that I believe John can elaborate, because he's there to oversee the project. So he'll be on site to do that. But John can elaborate on who's on site.
Sure. So as of right now, with the discussions, the initial intention was to have somebody there full time, but due to the some restrictions as far as from COVID and spacing, there'll be I want to call it now a swing space for some of the sub consultants to the OPM and architects, and there'll be, when they're not using the space, we'll have somebody there. I'll be there on a daily basis, pretty much going forward after demolition starts, just as a check-in or for specific needs as they flow. As far as people in the neighborhood, I've been in constant contact with probably 6 or 7 abutters that have reached out to us or indicated that they wanted to be kept in contact with. They've reached out on several occasions for different things. I've reached out to them on several occasions for different things, for things that they've asked to have highlighted. My number, I gave them my personal cell phone number so that they could contact it 24/7 if there was a real problem or an issue they wanted to talk about during the day. So they have access to us. We also set up a email address, which was a new Chapman at weymouth.ma.us, so that they could shoot emails there quick and that would get answered by whoever was available to do it. But they have my direct phone number. A few of them have been working with Greg Labella, who will be on site as well here and there as a part of the project management team from the town. And they have contacted him, more specifically one on Anthony Road that he's worked pretty close with to, just mitigate any concerns they had, and he's done a good job. So far, so good. It's working really well. And I don't foresee any issues going forward with the communication. When I get notified of something, if it's from one of them, in a very short period of time in touch with Paul Hennigan or Simon or whoever needs to be contacted at that time. Paul's been great. He's never not picked up the phone when I've called him or addressed a situation when I've called him. So I think the communication so far has been phenomenal. And I think all in all, the abutters should be pleased with the way that things are going.
Could I just, Lejo, can I just clarify something? Yep. So I know John McLeod and I had a conversation, just to give background. I had requested that the school have someone on site as well when I had heard that there was potentially someone there from the town. And we had a conversation, and I know John McLeod works for the town and the school department. And that he's obviously representing both entities. But John, I just want to, in our conversation, we talked about how that swing space, if need be, Melanie Curtin or Myra Jones or myself or whatever could go over and visit or be present for different things if need be, correct?
It's available through Hill is what we've been running it. Yeah, Hill just as a communication thing. Nobody walks on the site.
It's more of a kiosk space.
Yeah, and there's testing involved, there's questions involved at this point, there's protocols to get into the site for construction that Bond does. There's a lot of stuff to go through just to be on there, and it's quite frankly, it's a pretty dangerous place at some points. We don't wander around the site. We're there for a reason, or we're not there.
And I know previously Paul has offered, if any from the committee or the town come visit the site, we'll be happy to make those arrangements.
Yes.
Ted, I got a question.
Go ahead.
But Hill or HMFA is hiring a project manager to protect our interests of this contract, right? There's a professional project manager on site through Bond or HMFA or Hill, correct?
Correct.
Ted, I have an additional question. The insurance that was referenced earlier. So is there insurance on the site right now? Are they operating a construction zone with or without insurance? That wasn't quite clear to me.
No, there's insurance on the site currently.
Okay. So what was the reference to insurance that was made before?
Sort of the next phase of the insurance, if you will. Right now it's under Bond, their insurance. And so the next phase that we had the builder's risk option that we were had reviewed and chose, but John can elaborate more.
Sure. So the town has the town has a general liability insurance policy through Maya, which has buildings and assets scheduled on a yearly basis. When we get into a construction project of something like this magnitude, where something's being torn down and reconstructed, there's an additional policy that was taking place. It comes off of our general liability schedule and gets programmed into what they call builder's risk, which has different thresholds of deductibles, different thresholds of coverages for different aspects of that project, broken down all the way through it. It as much as covers trucking of materials that are purchased to the site by the contractor. If something happened on site, if they get stolen, if they get hijacked, there's a lot of things that could potentially happen in a project of this size. And builder's risk kind of encapsulates the construction project as a whole, from the time that they're allowed to start it to the time that they turn it over after substantial completion to us. And it covers everything from point A to point B. Prior to that point, we'll be covered by our general liability, and post-construction, we will be covered by our general liability as the new building gets rescheduled back into our program. Bond also carries
prior and post, there's coverage, but what about while this builder's risk is not in place?
That's what the builder's risk is for. That's the exact policy that we're talking about, either us holding or bond holding. In either way, we will be covered because it will name us as an insured. But it's just a matter of who has the best policy, number one, which is the best coverages for the best money. So it's we want to get the best bang for our buck with the most coverage we can get for the same dollars. And
we've got an active construction site right now, and I don't hear that. You're saying it's on the general liability right now?
Yeah. So our bond has their own policies that covers them as contractors. We also have a general liability policy in place until we have one of the two builder's risk policies take it over. So the general liability today still covers it because the building is built over. So they don't. The standard practice is they don't put a builder's risk policy in place until the building comes down.
So until the building comes down. So
yeah. So we can. There's a window in between from when they start doing demo and start pouring concrete on the new structure, that there is a general liability policy in place.
Okay. That leaves me a little bit unsettled, and as a resident, and I think we should pursue that a little bit harder. That's a concern. If there's an active construction zone, there's a reason for builder's risk, and I feel like it just seems that you're operating without it at the moment.
We're operating with insurance, just to be very, very clear. There's no lapse in insurance during this. There's different types of insurance. Again, our regular and then risk when the building comes down, but the site is completely covered by insurance throughout the process. So just to make that abundantly clear, there's no issues.
Through one more clarification. The insurance company won't write a builder's risk policy until a certain time of a construction project, and we're not there yet.
There we go. Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
So this is Lisa again. I just want to follow back up with the site management. So to Kathy's point, my understanding was that Hill and Bond were going to have site people there on site. There would be a trailer. And then it was also my understanding that there wasn't sufficient space, and due to COVID, that the town, or neither the town nor the schools, would have somebody on site. Obviously, John is going to go back and forth as our liaison, but now I'm hearing that there will be somebody from the town on site. Or am I not hearing that correctly?
Not as regularly planned. Initially, our plan was to have someone there full time, as taking up an office, and due to what's happened, we don't have enough room for them to be there full time taking up an office. So there'll be times when we want them on site for a couple of reasons. One, coming out of this, it's not as important now as it is later on down the road. But, having the institutional knowledge of having somebody there watching where the conduits run and going through it after the fact, to have them on board after the completion of the project is a valuable asset to the town. It's not just for the project, it's for the future. So there'll be someone that actually has institutional knowledge that was there during the pieces being put together that you won't be able to see after it's complete. So that's the original concept of having a town project. I mean, I've been filling that role basically since I came to work for the town in 2007 on smaller projects or other projects. And as we've expanded and done so much work and have so many things going on at this time, it's still an important piece that we don't want to miss. But we also have to have someone that is construction minded and trained in the ability to read mechanical plans and stuff and understand what they're looking at, so that we don't take any time or efforts away from the OPMs and the architects that are there when they need to be there, or the sub-consultants, so that they can go about what they have to do in protecting our interests all the way through.
So, in that, so the person that you've identified for that has that experience?
He has worked in the mechanical field. He has a training in mechanical and a mechanical background, and he has a master's degree in facilities management.
So I guess we can talk about this offline. I don't mean to take up a lot of time for it, but I'm concerned that there's not a school, especially if we are looking for institutional knowledge, that there's not a school person who will be on site along with this person, if there are things that we need to know about the school. So maybe we can continue the conversation about how to maybe facilitate some compromise like that.
A school person to oversee construction?
When we combined maintenance and custodial and the assets, it's all combined. It's all one now. It's not separate, school versus town. It's all one. That was the genesis of combining maintenance, custodial, and
yeah, and I don't disagree. I'm just concerned that the communication is not getting to the schools. So that is my biggest concern. So if we can figure out how to have that communication channel further developed, and we can make some more lines of communication on what's going on in the site, then that's fine.
Any other comments or questions from the committee?
No, one more thing, Ted. Lisa, I'm that person. So I don't plan on going anywhere. This is my career. It has been since 2007. Unless something or somebody chooses for me not to be here, I'll be here.
Yeah, and I know, and you've been doing a great job, and this has nothing to do with you. I'm just concerned that it can't just be one person, and that there's we need to have a backup, and if there are educational decisions to be made, and that comes up during the construction part of it, I would hope that information would get to the schools, to help make those decisions. So that's important to me. And again, I think I just worry when it's just one person, because I just, in any job, I don't think you can rely on one person to hold on to all of that information.
I would just say that decisions were made during the design process. The construction is based on the design decisions that have already been made, including the educational input. That nothing, we just submitted again at 90%, and we're done basically with the design, including all the educational components. Those decisions have already been made, and now it's construction people building the building based on those designs. And we have construction people and expertise overseeing work.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wonder then why we need somebody on site at all then, and why we're paying for it if we have somebody from Hill and Bond already doing that, and John.
Because we're spending $160 million, and done with the library project, we have site to just keep an eye on that the things that we've decided on happen.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I'm looking to, if we're concerned about, that's why I'm asking to potentially have another person over there, a school-related person on an interim basis as well. So again, we can have the conversation or discussion offline.
We don't need another person on site overseeing the project.
And I guess that's where we disagree.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the committee before I take a motion to adjourn? I will take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn the school building committee meeting of June 23rd.
Second.
Thank you. We're going to roll call the adjournment as well. Donna?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Superintendent?
Yes.
John McLeod?
Yes.
Kathy Curran?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Matt Meehan?
Yes.
Al Carton?
Yes.
Ryan Smith?
Yes.
Sean, are you back? I think he was. Sean got booted off, I think. Chair votes yes. Thanks, everyone, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.